Everybody, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn with me, Julie Cameron, business growth specialist with ActionCOACH Solihull. So today, for those that are joining us on Facebook and LinkedIn, hello, welcome. I do this session every Monday, basically to share some education with you guys about how to grow your business. And today, what we're talking about is the mastery of delivery, or delivery mastery. So if you are listening in on Facebook and LinkedIn, please drop any comments that you have in the chat boxes below, and I will do my utmost as we go along to answer any questions that you may have. So so basically what we're talking about today, so most important aspect, I suppose, of business is that we are based on profit. And how do we as businesses get that profit? Well, we get profit from repeat customers. So basically today is talking about when we get a customer, we want to keep them. They'll then become a repeat customer, and that's where we make our profit. And fundamentally, that's why we are in business, to generate that profit. Okay, and this therefore means that we need to deliver our product, our service, whichever business that we're in, with consistency. And that means, it needs to be delivered consistently, and that is on time, on budget, with expectation. So importantly, another thing that we have to realize is that any referrals that we get rely on that consistent factor. So, what we need to look at is that under promise and over deliver aspect. So if you're going to deliver something on Friday, then tell your customer that potentially you will deliver that on Saturday. Therefore, you'll get that a day early without telling the customer that obviously you're going to deliver on the Friday, and it will get more customer satisfaction. So, in a way, if you can under promise and over deliver, then do it. But do appreciate that in some businesses out there that you can't, and you need to promise when it will actually be delivered. So think about that delivery, how you can wow your customer, because what we need to do is wow them rather than just satisfy them. Now, so I want to look at your process within that customer journey. Number one, getting that client. And it's about the consistency here, to servicing that client, serving the client, whether it's with that product or service, collecting payment for the client. Again, it's that consistent process. Maintaining the client, so keeping them as a client and getting that repeat business from them. And then number 5, gaining referrals, that repeat business through the client. And again, like I want to say, it's that customer journey. So what are we looking at? Within that journey, we want feedback. We want complaints and we want compliments. Now, I can appreciate that some of you out there are probably going, what, you want complaints? Well, I do, because complaints is feedback. And I want you to think about it. If you went to a restaurant and it was just okay, and people asked you, you'd probably say, yeah, it was fine, but chances are you won't go back. So at that point, that business owner is not getting honest feedback, and it's through honest feedback that we survive in business. So if you're just going to say to that restaurant that it was okay and you're not providing any honest feedback, they're never going to survive in business. We need feedback to know where we're making mistakes, where the problems are. And if we're not getting either, then our customers aren't communicating with us. So when you look at the process that's on the screen, where can our customers communicate with us? Because a process is no good in our head. Unless you're planning to work in the business forever, you need to take that knowledge and that skill out of our head, because it makes that business less reliant on you. So when you're thinking about processes and when you're thinking about that delivery, if you take that knowledge and that skill out of your head and put it down in a process, then that business becomes less reliant on you. Okay, it means that your staff have a resource to refresh themselves through, not just you. And it means that your trainees, those new members of staff, have the start of the training manual. And it also means that you have a record. You've recorded those methods and that standards for performance management. And again, as it comes down to it, it means that your clients can experience consistency, and so can you. Having those, and I've put McDonald's up on the screen, but I want you to think about the McDonald's experience. So having those up-to-date systems, those processes in place, adds value to your business. Okay, And if you sell, they don't have to buy you as well as buying the company. So if you can look at your business at the moment, think about kind of your business. Is it reliant on you? Or can it be, if you stepped away from that business, would it be a sellable asset? Franchises are really just great systems, recorded and trained, and they're worth millions, just like the franchise model of McDonald's or even of ActionCOACH. We're a franchise system, and it's great systems that are recorded and trained, and they're worth a lot of money. So, out there, okay, I want you to look at the screen at the moment, and I want you to sort of like say, do this exercise, very much on the screen. Find the sequence of numbers starting with the number 1, then number 2, 3, 4, and so on in a consecutive order. Can you do it? What's the highest number that you can get to? Okay. What I want you to think about at that moment, and I could set the timer going, but, pause the video at this moment, have a look at it, and test yourself within a minute. What's the highest number that you can get to? Okay. But how easy is it more so with a system in place? So if you did that exercise, knowing that the number 1 was in the top left-hand corner, number 2 was in the top right, then number 3 was at the bottom left, and number 4 is in the bottom right, and it goes on that way. So consecutively, what is the highest number that you can get to? And I can guarantee it's a hell of a lot higher than the one on the screen before. And again, pause it, do that exercise. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and so on. And that means that when you're looking at your processes and your systems in place, think about how to make a cup of tea. And this is where it comes down to your customer experience. We can make systems and we can make processes for every single aspect of your business. But what I want you to start thinking about is your customer journey, your customer experience, okay? And I want you to think about what is the process for that customer experience. And you could do it, I've very funny put up on the one on the screen about making a cup of tea, because I can guarantee that if I was to ask all of you out there, which would how you make a cup of tea, it would be very different, okay? However, if we mapped it out and we made a process for it, it would be identical. And again, that comes down to our customer experience. If you were to map out your customer experience out there, it would then lead to that consistency in delivery. So let's think about, why do we systemize our business? Why do we need that customer journey systemized? Well, it increase your profits, and it will deliver that consistency for your customers. It will remove the rework, doing it wrong and doing it again. It's easier to train staff, and it's easy to see if staff are doing it the way that you want it done. Now, how do we get this feedback? Well, one of the things that we were talking about right at the very start of this is about the business owner not getting honest feedback. So do you get feedback from your customers? Do you do surveys? Do you survey your past customers? Do you look at those surveys and do they highlight the areas that you can improve on? What you did really well. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It just opens up in a way that channels of communication, and as I said before, we're wanting those complaints, we're wanting those compliments. Complaints are opportunities. One thing that we use at ActionCOACH really well is our Net Promoter Score. In other words, how likely are our customers, how likely will they refer to us to another customer? And in ActionCOACH, we do this, and we're in the top companies of the world. We're proactive. We ask for complaints, we ask for feedback, and we then fix them. And that's the brilliant aspect of it, and that is the key, I suppose, of it all, is that we fix them. So we ask for complaints, we ask for feedback. We don't just go, oh, well, never mind. We actually look at them and realize that there's something that we can fix and enhance that customer experience. And again, on the screen, it says it increased profits. It increases profits because we are getting that repeat customer, because they're coming back because we are fixing the issues that they've had. what I want you to do in your business at the moment is look for those bottlenecks and those problems in your business. And that goes back, and I'll just take it off the screen and I'll go back to that workflow of making that cup of tea. You know, when you do your sales process in your flow chart, which is on the screen now. So what's your flow chart steps of your customer experience? And I want you to look at where the problem areas lie. You know, where are the bottlenecks? You know, is it a person? Is it a process? You as the business owner need to fix them, and you can only fix it if you find it. And you can only find it by asking for feedback and communicating with your customers. So I'll say all that again, you know, because I think it's really key. You know, what is your sales process? What is your customer experience? You know, what are your flow chart steps? You know, and I want you to look at those problem areas that are there. What are the bottlenecks? You know, and think about those bottlenecks. Is it a person? Is it a process? Because you, as that business owner, need to fix them. And you can only fix them if you find them. And you can only find them by asking for feedback and communicating with customers. You know, and that's scary as a business owner, because who wants complaints? You know, but if you change your mindset and you look at it as a positive aspect, that's the way that you're going to grow your business. Customers complain in a way, you know, and you have to look at it that customers complaining is actually, in a way, it helps you. You know, the vast majority of customers, when they make a complaint, they want to help you. You know, and I want you to think about that the next time you get a complaint. Yes, I appreciate there's some people out there that just complain for complaint's sake. And you have to appreciate and recognize that. But the majority of customers out there, when they complain, they're doing so because they want to help you. You know, and so I want you to do that flow chart, and I want you to create that visual representation of how your business works, you know, from start to finish, from supplier to customer. And that's exactly what's on the screen at the moment, you know, making that cup of tea. And we know we've simplified it down, but think about it where your business, from supplier to customer, what is your flow chart? You know, and that's a massive job. So what I need to start with, and what you need to start with, is that customer experience. You know, what are the steps involved? And, you know, look at it from a restaurant's point of view. And I know I've gone back to that, you know, but what are the steps from the minute that customer comes through the door? You know, what happens? They open the door. What's the next stage? What's the next stage? What's the next stage? What's the next stage? Because by documenting it and looking at that customer experience, then you're educating your staff. You know, and delivery comes down to two things, and it's people and processes, and they have to work together. And the flow chart, the one that we've got on the, if we go back to that that restaurant analogy, then we also need the people to make sure that the process is carried out. You know, and when we look at people, it's all about that training. You know, you can have the best people in the world, but if they don't have the best processes, then it won't make any difference. You know, so I want you to think about, you can have the best people in your business in the world, but if you haven't got a process in place and the best process in place, then it will make no difference whatsoever. So let's move on to checklist. Let's go on to this one. Oops. So again, who loves a checklist? Me. You know, we have a client that says they have, you know, an issue with their people, you know, that their team aren't working, you know, sometimes that they're great, other times that they're not, you know, others do, you know, 1 week they're okay, there's no consistency. Well, let's think about it. So show me the checklist that they use. Okay. Think of it like a recipe. Can you bake a cake without a recipe? Will you get the same result every time if you don't use the recipe? Think about it as the same in your business. You put your checklist in place for the most routine job, you'll get in, you know, it will become more consistent and you will get the same outcome every single time. But without a checklist, you won't get that same outcome. because people will do it slightly different. And again, it's me going back to that making of that cup of tea, and I'll bring it back onto the screen. You know, again, if you think about it, if you had a checklist and a flow chart, etc., for making a cup of tea, then you will get the same cup of tea every single time. Okay, but if you don't have that, then people may forget it. People may forget that you want the milk in before the sugar. People may forget the sugar in total. You know, you'll have those people within your team that, you know, have that ego and they say, I don't need a checklist. You know, but if you don't have one, you can forget things and people will struggle to do a great job. Now, again, that consistency and mastery of delivery, you know, we often hear that, you know, excuses, you know, people say that suppliers are late, suppliers don't deliver. Well, then as a business owner, change the supplier. If you allow your supplier to be your excuse, then that's your problem, not theirs. Another way of mastering that delivery is through outsourcing. Sometimes there's things in your business that you just don't need to do. Sometimes we need to outsource them. And maybe it's like realizing in your sales process where that bottleneck is. So someone else will do a better job at clearing that bottleneck. Okay, and they will get a better result of clearing that bottleneck because they have the right resources, they have the right access to the thing that will clear that bottleneck within your sales process. You know, or it could be that you have a product or a service that fluctuates in demand. So one month it needs doing lots and the next not a lot. So at that point, it's a great time to outsource, because therefore you're only using and only paying for the resource that when it's used. So what I also want you to think about is that your greatest asset of the business is your people. Okay, and if it's not, then why isn't it? You know, are they not the right people within your organization? And again, I want you to think of training, I want you to think of processes, I want you to think of flow charts. Because what we need to do and what we need to look at is whether they know how they fit into that bigger picture. Do your people know, when you're looking at that flow chart, you know, how they fit into that customer journey and how their job impacts on that customer journey? Because if not, they will struggle in that role and they'll struggle in their job. They need to know what's expected of them. You know, so how do we do this? You know, so when you go back into the office, whether that's this afternoon or whether that's tomorrow, I want you to take your members of your team, and I want one of them by one, I want you to ask them to write down 10 things that they believe is their job, you know, and I want you as the business owner to write down the same 10 things that you think is their job, not your job, their job. Okay. I then want you to compare the list. Are they the same? And I can guarantee that majority of them won't be. So therefore, you know, what you guys need to think about as a business owner, it's hard for that person and those people within your organization to do a great job if they think that their job role is different to what you think it should be. Therefore, if you're not consistently on the same page, you know, and we always talk about having the right people on the right bus and in the right seat and a clear destination. But if they don't know their job role, then how can they be doing that role to the best of their ability? Therefore, it's down to that education and that communication as you, as the business owner, you have to do to that person, you know, and that question, you know, have we hired the right people? You know, mastering of delivery or delivery mastery is all about the people and processes. So think about, have you hired the right people? You know, it's one of the most important questions that you have to ask yourself. And there's that great saying that hire slow, fire fast. You know, so take your time when you're hiring people. You know, have you got the right person on the bus with you? Are they in the right role? You know, but fire fast. You know, are they a square peg in a round hole? You know, if they've been bad at their job from the day one, then chances are they won't improve. You know, we always say, and it's something that always resonates with me, you know, if you've got a customer facing role, you know, are they a natural smiler? You know, do they smile when people walk through the door? or not. You know, I used to work for a company many years ago. Actually, when they recruited, they asked that question, you know, are you a natural smiler? And if people responded, well, no, I'm not, then they wouldn't hire them, because they were hiring for customer facing roles. And if you as a customer walk through the door and somebody smiles at you, what do you automatically do? You smile back. And a smile makes you feel good, doesn't it? You know, so if you're thinking of hiring somebody for a customer facing role and they're not very smiley, then actually, are they the right person? So as we always say, have you got the right people in the right places on that bus? You know, and again, it goes down to people, and I can't stress it enough. People are really important. They're a real important asset, and the most important asset in your business, you know. But too many of us, and too many of us business owners, we hire people and we expect them to do a great job. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here at the moment. You know, we hire people and we expect them to do a great job. But actually, wouldn't we expect, you know, you wouldn't expect a team, you know, a sports team out there to do a great job without training them. You know, so why would we expect that the same from our business? Why aren't we training our people to get better? You know, and people can only perform to the level that they're trained. So to get more, what do we need to do? You know, to get more from them, what do we need to do? We need to train them. We need to coach them. We need to mentor them. We need to educate them. And training is the only way to get them to be better. You know, but again, it goes back to that consistency, and consistency in training is key. You know, the more education, the more training, etc. And that's our role as business owners, is to facilitate it. But what we need to remember is that as a business owner, sometimes we're not the right person to do the training, you know. And why is that? Well, there's loads of reasons, but there's three main ones in my opinion. You know, one of them is that familiarity breeds contempt. So they're familiar with you. They know what you're doing. They know kind of how to do it, you know, and things like that. But actually, you know, it breeds that contentment, you know. And you as a business owner, you may have forgotten certain aspects of how to do a certain role, you know, and there's details in training somebody that you may have forgotten because you are unconsciously competent. You know, what do I mean by unconsciously competent? Well, you do a task automatically because you're unconsciously competent in doing that. You know what you're doing, you just crack on and you just do it. You do it automatically. So therefore, there may be details that you're missing out when you're training somebody on how to do it. You know, and then the next reason is that outside training companies often bring in better training systems. There often are better educational nuggets, as I would call, you know. So therefore they're learning something new, they're bringing something new back to your business. Whereas if you as a business owner was to train them, then chances are then you're not actually training them anything, teaching them anything new. And what you want as a business is to grow. And therefore, when they're bringing back these golden nuggets from training sessions that you're not taking, the outside training sessions, training companies are doing, then you need to enhance that learning, and that will help you grow your business. Because if you grow your people, they will grow your business. And if you don't grow your people, then they won't get better. They won't think of anything new, you know. And equally, you know, this is where you have to open those lines of communication. You know, ask your team. You know, we went through it before about surveys and about getting feedback from our customers through complaints and compliments, you know. But when was the last time we actually asked our team, you know, and we looked at our processes and we, you know, what's going well, you know, did we ask them what is going well? So if you've outsourced, you know, you to a VA, well, you know, what feedback are they getting? Have you asked them how it's going? You know, what's that script going like? You know, are you getting many you get feedback from the people that you're talking to? Does it work? You know, what's going well? Where is the system breaking down? You know, how can we get more consistency in our business? And it's really important to talk to people that are on your team. Now, I know that many of you kind of maybe out there are going, well, I don't have a team, but you do in a certain way because you have a supplier, you know. So how is your relationship with that supplier going? Is there a way that, that the system between you both is breaking down? Can you talk to them? They'll come up with new ideas as well as you. They are the ones that have to deal with things on a day-to-day basis, whether it's that VA, PA, whether it's a telephonist, whether it's people, manufacturing, whatever, they're the ones that have to deal with things on a day-to-day basis. They will be the ones that will be able to tell you what your top 5 compliments are or your top 5 complaints are. And then as a business owner, what you need to do is to remove all of those excuses. So those excuses, and we all get them, we ran out of time, that just doesn't work. And what we need to do is, make that list of all that feedback that you're getting, and then remove that excuse so they can't use it. So if it's a case of ran out of time, well, why did they run out of time? Is it because that process, that part of that process is too long? Does it need to be broken down into smaller bits? It doesn't work. Well, why doesn't it work? Is it because they've not got the right tools for the job? Is it because you haven't given them the right training? You need to make a new process, or need to look at the people that you've got involved in that process and in that flow chart. Is it a case of actually you've got one person doing that role there, but actually if you had 2, then the process would be slicker, quicker, and it would get the end product out to the customer quickly. You need to build your business about what the customer sees and experiences rather than what's easy for you as a business. That's the great customer experience, and that is where you're mastering your delivery. Think about your customer rather than your team. Think about that customer experience, map it out, and it can create conflict within your team or within yourself, because if you're mapping out the customer experience, it might add extra points to you as a business owner, might add extra kind of steps, but what I want you to think about is the customer, not necessarily about yourself, because actually that's going to enhance the customer experience. So we at the Action Coach have a 14-step process for a customer's journey. Well, 14 steps is a hell of a lot. It's a long period of time, So therefore, is it a case of, when you're looking at that, that's highlighting the fact that that customer journey is great. Is it adding extra time and extra points for me? Yes. But fundamentally, it's increasing my conversion rate and helping with that customer journey and experience. And that's what it's all about. So get your team to think about the customer and show that real example, that if you follow all this, then chances are that customer will become a repeat customer and they will become a repeat business. And that is where you're making your money and your profit. And sometimes you have to realize that your systems are harder so that we keep that customer. They become a repeat customer, which in return will, increase our profit, which will mean that our business will grow. So in summary, delivery mastery is all about people and processes, as well as the consistency in them. Get the people and the processes right and be consistent with them, and that will mean you'll get repeat customers, which in turn will give you profit and cash flow. I could talk about this for hours. I'm not going to today, so please, join me every day this week. There'll be a golden nugget, a little bit of educational aspect on the mastery of delivery going out every day this week between Tuesday and Friday. And then join me next Monday when we'll be doing another webinar. Thanks very much for joining me.